Rotec, and we just finished our first test fire, and really happy, successful. And now we want to go over and show you in detail what we have done with the wiring harness and what we're going to do with the module to make this run. Right now, we're doing it the way we've done previously. We're using a Busman panel, and we're interfacing it to the Jeep computer. This is our test bed JL. We need to do that to figure out all the signals. After that, we're going to go to a one module system, and we'll replace a Jeep ECU, and we'll control everything. The Busman panel will go away. We're going to make basically adapters to plug in, just like the factory Pentastar engine did for your fuse panel. It's going to plug in, and the TIPM fuses will fuse the injectors. There won't be any redundancy. It will be just like factory. The next thing, the harness fits really well, as you can see. We do tweak them a little bit to fit the LT1 intake, but it looks really nice, looks like factory. This one is a L83 8-speed combo. So this is a TCM, and this external. This is the E92 controller. Every Gen 5 uses this basic controller. This is very powerful. The direct injection is much different, and really excited because 8-speed is such an awesome transmission with all the extra gears and the better gear ratios.
Hey guys, well, you just saw the JL running. We pulled the body back off. We made a adjustable transmission mount for the back, and we fired the engine up and topped the transmission off. We find that it's a little bit easier to do it with the body off than with the body on. So this 360 horsepower engine is being run off of a drill motor battery. We just powered up the fuel pump using a lithium ion battery. Now we do have a 241J case mocked up on here just for measurement and clearances. This is a transmission mount that we fabbed up to check the height of the transmission versus the tunnel. You can see that we can adjust our height to whatever we want by changing these bushings here. We've also made this mount adjustable front to rear and side to side like we traditionally do. You can see that this case is just loosely put on. This is our adapter ring to go from the 8L90 to the 241J. This adapter ring also will work for an Atlas II transfer case. We have our shifter that we'll be showing you in an upcoming video. This 8L90 does have a traditional shift lever. Trans-cooler lines. This is the transmission control module for the 8-speed. The 8L90 does run an external transmission control module, unlike the 6L80. The earlier Generation 4 engines that had the 4-speed transmissions also ran an external transmission control module. They were the T43 controller, and they were very similar to this. So you can see we have all of our connections. This is going to be our O2 sensor. Everything in this harness is factory, and I'm going to show you the fuel lines here in just a second. This is our E92 Gen 5 controller, as Mitch showed you. We currently have a pedal hooked up just so we can operate the engine as we fill the transmission fluid up. We have our AC compressor installed. We have our alternator installed. Everything is really laying out well. As this axle goes up, it moves over to the passenger side, so it looks like we're going to have plenty of clearance to the AC compressor, and that's with no lift on this Jeep at all. Walking around this side, really couldn't be any cleaner. We've actually got our stock fuel line and purge line, and these are the factory JL purge and fuel line, and this is even the factory JL fuel pressure sensor. So we're actually going to use this with the JL fuel pump control module to control fuel pressure. Now this is a 5/16 line. This is a 5.3 engine, so we think this is going to be okay. And it's pretty amazing that the factory lines lay out so well. We do have an adapter harness that's about 10 inches long up here that goes from the factory JL to the fuel rail, but that's it. Everything else is factory JL all the way up to the fuel tank. Here's our TCM connector. Here's our TCM connector. Downstream O2, upstream O2. The Gen 5s do run a different connector on the O2s than the Gen 4s did. You can see we have our NOx sensor here now. This is our starter motor. Fuel level sensor down here. We might integrate the fuel level into the dash. We're still thinking that through. This is our vents, obviously, for the transmission and the transfer case. Really couldn't be any simpler. We got plenty of room. The Pentastar JK had a pretty big firewall because the Pentastar engine's a dual overhead cam 4-valve engine, so it's really wide, and that made it fit the LT engine very well, because the LT engine, while not dual overhead cam, does have direct injectors, which makes the head a little bit taller. However, the overall width is pretty similar, and we're finding that we've actually made no modifications at all to this engine, and we decided that we're not going to trim these covers because we have so much adjustability. With these easy mounts, we've got almost 2 inches of front to rear travel, so all we have to do is move this engine slightly forward. This is the GM Generation 5 alternator that's going to be controlled by the ECM for smart charging. It has a one-way bearing in this to reduce friction or drag. So it's almost time to drop this body. Let's just take a quick look here at the shifter cables. We're going to use the transfer case shifter cable. Chrysler's using a lever to reverse the direction, and we're going to try to simplify that because this 241J is pretty simple, and everything about this build is simplifying what Chrysler did. If you look at how complex the original powertrain was, we're trying to simplify this because I firmly believe the simpler the better. This parking prowl release cable is probably not going to make it in our swap because we have our own shift linkage that we're going to add to this. So in the next video we'll have the body on and we'll start hooking up all the wiring. This is a variable displacement compressor and it will be operated in such. So AC idle bump, evaporator temperature, condenser pressure will all be controlled by the operating system. Nothing will be mechanical, nothing will be a workaround. It'll all be integrated right through the original operating system. Our trans cooler line's laid out really well, much simpler than the JL. These are the original tranny cooler lines, which are going to go up into the transmission cooler in front of the condenser. We're going to do no mods to those, and the remainder of the power steering system is just stock. We're not going to touch it. You can see this motor is sitting pretty level right now. We may drop the back of the trans back just a hair. We're going to find out when we get the body back on. We'll fine tune it to exactly where we want. But one of the nice things about our easy mounts and this new transmission mount that we designed is that it's fully adjustable in all 3 dimensions. So I'm pretty excited about this. It's actually coming together a lot easier than I thought it would. The hard part is, of course, going to be the electronic integration, which we have already done most of the legwork on that before we pull the body off of this vehicle. And it's now just a matter of marrying these codes, and then we will be back with a running JL. So I'm as excited as most of you guys are to get the body on this thing and get it on the road. I firmly believe that I'm going to get 20 plus miles to the gallon with this 5.3 on the highway, especially with these small little tires. I think we're running a 340-ish rear end in this, and with this 5.3 and the torque that this direct injected motor has, that might even be over geared. We probably could run 321s in this thing, and I might even go up to 35s with the 340s or even 37s and see how it pulls it, because GM has really designed these LTs for bottom end torque, and if you look at the way they gear the production vehicles, we're looking at 321s and like Suburbans and other really heavy vehicles, because they want to apply a load against the torque that these engines are engineered to put out. So you got to think differently than the old days of the V6 with the 538s and the 37s. That just isn't going to work in one of these. So you want to gear tall, but this 8-speed transmission has a 4.6 low and a 0.6 overdrive, so we have a really diverse gear ratio that is going to launch us out of the hole really hard, and at the same time you're going to get on the highway and you're going to be well below 2,000 RPM cruising at 70 plus miles an hour. It really should be a magic combination. Stay tuned.